While in a board meeting one time, I was told, Jack, you care too much about argumentation, the intellect, and being right. I've learned that you can either be right or be in relationship. What was at stake in this meeting? My job. He was threatening to leave, and my reputation. How would you respond to this challenge? Meetings like this can be stressful and full of emotions. How can you think quick on your feet, assess the threat, and make the right moves? Conflict is hard and often avoided, but we have it every day from social media to our marriages to our careers. We all have memories of conflicts that shaped us, hurt us, relationships of betrayal, as well as friends who stood up for us. The subject of conflict might bring up feelings of hesitancy, fear, or discomfort, but by the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of conflict, courage to face the threat, and maybe learn how to win a few important contests. Here's how I responded to the challenge of me caring more about being right than being in relationship in that board meeting. I asked a simple question. Do you think you're right about that? You see, I saw something in the very last sentence that this man said to me that was self-refuting. You can either be right or in relationship. The very premise that he was arguing that I cared too much about argumentation was a little contradictory too, but I let that slide. Now, his challenge was that I cared more about being right than about being in relationship. For one, this is a false dichotomy. You can be right and in relationship. In fact, I would say that's a good indicator of a healthy relationship, being right and being in relationship, at least in the things that matter. This man's charge against me was something that he believed he was right about. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought up the challenge. The problem was he didn't think through the accusation. When confronted with the self-defeating nature of his challenge, do you think you're right about that? He took a moment to connect the dots. Then the rage kicked in, and he started yelling at me. The guy completely lost his cool. Red in the face, he stood up at one point. He absolutely lost it. As he spit venom at me, he dug his hole deeper by accusing me of not responding to his criticism in a humble and accepting way. Guess how I responded to this towering, red-in-the-face, raging man? I said as calmly as I could, how can you demand something of me that you yourself are not modeling? Guess what happened next? He sat down, put his hands on his head, and apologized for his behavior. I never thought that would be the outcome, given how emotionally charged this man was, but here we are. Some of you watching this may think that I'm the hero. Others may think I was the villain, and I'm okay with that. By the end of this video, you'll know which role I kind of placed myself in. Truth be told, the reason I'm decent at these charged board meetings is because I've been in a lot of them. I've debated a lot and been the fool more times than I can count. From asking a girl out to negotiating a contract, I've had my fair share of embarrassment. I could very well have been the man at the other end of that table just a few years prior, but luckily God has a way of maturing us as we age, and I hope we grow more than just wrinkles as the years march on. How do you define winning an argument? I'd like to challenge the very framework of how this question is formed. When you win in a contest or sport, there's always a loser. To lose means you failed, you've been defeated, beaten, knocked out, you've been humbled. If you define the goal of argument as winning or losing, there will always be a loser, and sometimes that loser will be you. How motivated will people be to join your cause, see your side, defend your position if they feel your goal is always to make them lose? Sometimes this isn't possible, and winning should be the goal. But in most cases, a successful argument is one that brings them to your side, or maybe a compromise in the middle, or both of you arriving at truth regardless of whose side each of you were on at the beginning. Ever thought of a disagreement as sharing in an argument? If you haven't, it's probably because we need to adjust our definition of argument, conflict, or disagreement from opposition that should be avoided, neglected, or even fought, to having a better relationship after having gone through the conflict. It's a mixture of tact, candor, and humor. It's telling someone off and having them thank you for it. The great Winston Churchill once said, tact is the ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. Diplomacy is the art of telling people to go to hell in such a way that they ask for directions. Growing up, I used to wish my parents never argued. I wish they never disagreed and that we could live in peace. Imagine how that might shape my understanding of conflict. Conflict, bad. Disagreement, bad. If conflict and disagreement are bad, then what is the good? No conflict and complete agreement? How will you spend your days with these two goals, to never have conflict and to have complete agreement? You'll either shy away from every conflict or you'll abuse weak people into complete agreement. The issue is not the strategy or response. The issue is the goal. The goals of having no conflict and complete agreement are unrealistic and unattainable. What types of people have no conflict or disagreements? Dictators and slaves.
There is no conflict.
Those who always have to win and those who always refuse to fight.
What's wrong, dude? You yellow!
So let's address some bad thinking regarding conflict and replace them with a better way forward. Here's how we define conflict. When the stakes are high, emotions are strong, and opposing opinions are present. When these three ingredients are combined, we have a recipe for conflict. Of those three, high stakes, strong emotions, and opposing opinions, guess which one you're the worst at? I'm going to take a calculated guess here and say that it's the same as me. Strong emotions. The next time you're about to get into a conflict, I don't want you to take a moment to gather your thoughts. I want you to lead with your emotions, your feelings. Just kidding, don't do that. If you lead with your emotions, you'll end up having to apologize and then deal with the embarrassment of looking like a fool.
Oh, dang it, what an idiot. I'm sorry.
Keep your emotions in check. To help us with our emotions, we need to retrain our minds to move from fight or flight to understanding conflict as healthy, good, and necessary.
Is it you, my great and worthy opponent?
Conflict is healthy, it's good, and it is necessary. Conflict shapes you and the people you share conflict with, and can shape you for good. Often, it's the only thing that can. I think our lives would be easier if we had the understanding of conflict as something to be shared instead of something to be waged. Conflict often centers around the most important things, and the outcomes are vital to our success and happiness as well as that of others. What do you cry about? What upsets you? Keeps you up at night? What hurts you? Conflict. What do you sing about? What makes you happy? What brings you joy? What's something that makes you shout accolades and praises? Overcoming conflict. The best stories, movies, books, the best memories come from overcoming conflict. Real, difficult, gut-wrenching challenge. So let's learn to conflict well by thinking about disagreement in a healthy way. Now, sometimes you'll be required to absolutely destroy your opponent's arguments. A threatening man is not one who's timid and capable of action, harmless. You can't get the gold if you don't face the dragon. And to face the dragon, you'll need a plan. But more importantly, you'll need a state of being, a potential available to you at the drop of a hat. Of all the tools you'll need to slay the dragon, armor, a sword, a plan, above all the necessary equipment to slay a dragon, you need courage and the ability to be a monster. Sometimes virtue is the ability to be monstrous, to protect and pursue what is right. That monstrous capacity is inside most of us. As the protector of your family, your wife, and your children, if someone breaks into your house, they'll be met with tremendous, monstrous aggression. If you're a man worth your salt, the criminals have just awoken a sleeping giant. But you can only deliver on this monstrosity if you have trained it, developed it, fed it, and not overused it, or at least used it in the right way. I think there's something to that kind of virtue. Someone who has a capacity for extreme violence, aggression, and power, but they keep it under the reins of serving others, protecting, thwarting, stopping evil. Or maybe I just watch too many superhero movies. I'll tell you this much, my wife loves to tell me, I'm so glad you're on my side. Jordan Peterson has said, a good man is a very dangerous man who has himself under control. Too many people have become agreeable. They want to be seen as nice over every other character trait. Someone who's always nice is generally compassionate, loving, caring, and a host of other great qualities, but they lose all the time.
Nice guys finish last.
If you can't say no, you lose in negotiations. You don't get what you want. You succumb to others' demands, and usually because you don't know what you want beyond pleasing other people. Those who don't decide leave it up for others to decide for them. They mold themselves into the victim role, and the dictator will always find you to control you. They sense that like a shark smells blood. So there are two goals of argument, debate, negotiation: to persuade and to win. Our next video is going to show you how to persuade your audience to your side through Aristotelian rhetoric. Following that video, you're going to learn how to absolutely destroy your opponent's arguments with logic. 90% of the time, you're going to be persuading people in your life, but you need to develop that capacity to slay the dragon so you can call upon that power when the time comes. And the time always comes when you least expect it. To recap, number 1, don't fear conflict, it shapes you, and each engagement makes you better. Number 2, don't be a dictator or a victim. Share in an argument with someone. Number 3, know the recipe for a conflict: high stakes, strong emotions, and opposing opinions. Number 4, view conflict as healthy, as necessary, and the pathway to growth and a better future. Number 5, develop your capacity to persuade or destroy and know when to use which one. If you enjoyed this video, check out the next one to up your critical thinking game. And until next time, critical thinkers, think deeply.